Today on the Toy Cave, we're taking a look at the Megatron H.I.S. tank. As a toy collector who collects both G.I. Joe and Transformers, this new Megatron H.I.S. tank was a must-have for me. Back in the 80s, 86 and 87, there was a 4-part Marvel comic team-up of Transformers and G.I. Joe. But we never got a toy line. So instead of G.I. Joe kind of jumping the shark and going into Battle Force 2000, and Transformers a few years later going into the Pretenders and other things, wouldn't it have been great if in the 80s we had a combination of Transformers and G.I. Joe? Before we go somewhere else to take a better look at the toy, let's take a look at the packaging. We've got our classic Decepticons, purple and yellow, grid pattern, G1 design with Megatron in robot mode here. And over in his tank mode, we've got our classic G.I. Joe explosion background. We've got the Baroness, the image of the Baroness figure, just like on the original Real American Hero toys. Perfect combination of the original toy lines. On the sides we've got Megatron in robot mode and his tank mode. Same on the sides. More of a G.I. Joe inspired design on this side. And on the bottom we have the 2022 G.I. Joe Transformers Collaborative. And on the back, his tank mode, Megatron in robot mode, Baroness there. Alright, let's go take a look at the toy. Alright, looking at Megatron in robot mode here, we see his head is inspired by the animated series with the all gray helmet look and face. Doesn't look much like the G1 that I'm used to. He's got big H.I.S. tank shoulder pads and the H.I.S. tank turret coming off his back. In this hand, he has the rear end of the H.I.S. tank that can be used as a shield. And in this hand, we have his big cannon. Not quite as big as an original Megatron's cannon would be. It's actually quite a bit smaller, since the original Megatron ult mode was a pistol. And on the side of his legs, we've got the treads for the H.I.S. tank. For articulation, moves at the shoulders and the elbows pretty smoothly. This seems to want to come off of his chest piece a lot. Pop it back in. Ratcheting joints in his hips. Bends at the knees. Splays in and out. And, well, his feet move, mostly for the transformation. Overall, he feels very lightweight compared to a G1 Transformer like I'm used to. I understand that it's made out of different plastic, cheaper plastic. It's got a lot of hollow spots. They're trying to save money on these, even though they cost significantly more than a vintage one used to. The turret on his back, you can put Baroness inside, and she can go shoot down some Joes. She can ride around in his backpack like Banjo and Kazooie type situation. If you turn him around, you can see a lot of that hollow space I was talking about. He's hollow behind his legs. If you remove this turret, which can pop off, you can see he's straight hollow in the back. So you probably want to keep that on. It's hollow in the thighs here. So overall, I feel like the robot mode just doesn't have a lot of substance. It should be a lot heavier. I feel like his cannon should be bigger. But standing on a shelf from the front, I think he looks pretty cool. Probably going to have him in one of my G.I. Joe setups, attacking tactical battle platform or maybe the flag. I'm not sure yet, but like I said, I had to get this guy because since they crossed over in the mid-80s, we really haven't had any transforming G.I. Joe vehicles or cross-merchandise things like this. There were a few action figures here and there, and like a Sky Striker repainted to look like a Seeker. But overall, nothing near to what this is. And we will transform him into tank mode and take a look. So here we have the Megatron in his tank mode. Looks almost identical to a vintage H.I.S. tank. Even has the peg holes for the figure feet, tow hitch, treads, rolls on similar wheels. Cockpit can open and close. There's a little bit of detail in there, more than the vintage one. Megatron's cannon can go on top here for more firepower, or you can remove it to make it more classic looking. Only giveaways that this is not a G.I. Joe H.I.S. tank is Megatron's feet are folded up down here. On the bottom you can see Decepticon logo hiding behind the hitch here. And if you remove the rear end, peekaboo, there is Megatron. So your included Baroness figure can man the turret, or she can fit in the cockpit, drive, or her and some Cobra troops could use the peg holes on the back of the vehicle. Let's compare it to the vintage one right now. From the front, very similar. From the side, still all the same decals, everything. The original H.I.S. tank came with a H.I.S. tank driver. Cannons look similar. Rear ends, very similar, except for the gray that lets you know that's Megatron back there. Very similar vehicles. One of the secrets about the original H.I.S. tank that you may not know is that there's a place to hang a Cobra claw on the back. You put its wheels up here in these notches, and it can haul the claw along with it. Let's test that out on the new one. It does not have the little holes, so not happening. Overall, I think the H.I.S. tank mode of Megatron is a lot better than the Megatron mode. There's no hollow parts. Looks pretty much identical, exactly what you expect from a H.I.S. tank. It's a fantastic H.I.S. tank, and I'm sure that when Hasbro was designing this, they were thinking about it becoming a H.I.S. tank first so that it could get that G.I. Joe tie-in, and then they had to work Megatron around it, which is why he's got some big bulky H.I.S. tank parts on him and some hollow plastic. They had to make it work. So that is a look at the Megatron H.I.S. tank from Hasbro. First real time these two franchises have merged together in toy form to transform. This is probably the only one I'm going to be getting. There is also a Bumblebee that turns into an Awe-Striker, which does not make a lot of sense to me. Megatron being a tank makes sense because the G2 version of Megatron was a tank instead of a handgun. So this is a good combination. Overall, pretty neat thing to have in your collection. There's also, I hear, a Soundwave coming out soon that will turn into a Dreadnought Thunder Machine, which also doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but we'll see how that goes. And so, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this look at this collectible of two franchises merging for the first time in 30 years. Hit that like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the Toy Cave next time.